So apparently, Checo saved his F1 career. And I was recommended this video by Harmon. Shout out to Harmon for recommending the video. We're going to be checking it out right now. How Sergio Perez saved his Formula One career. This should be interesting. Because I haven't been watching Formula One for that long, so I probably wouldn't know that he saved it because he's already saved it by the time I started watching, if you know what I mean. But anyways, let's hop right into video. This was anytime, starting now.
September 10th, 2020. It was announced that Sebastian Vettel would be replacing Sergio Perez for the 2021 season. And while this was arguably one of the worst kept secrets regarding driver transfers, fans couldn't help but feel sympathy for Checo, who saved the team from completely shutting down back in 2018. Regardless, he took the decision on the chin and displayed great appreciation for the Silverstone-based team. In his own words, "I will always be grateful for the opportunity given to me by Vijay Mallya, who believed in me in 2014 and allowed me to continue my F1 career with Force India. To the current administration led by Lawrence Stroll, I wish nothing but the best for the future, especially with the Aston Martin project." Deep down inside, however, Checo was hurting, given that this was the first time since 2014 that he was in a car capable of scoring podium finishes. At this point, the only realistic options for the Mexican to stay in F1 were Haas and Alfa Romeo. But as both teams were not capable of finishing in the points, this route didn't look all that appealing. After all, he didn't necessarily have a plan B, but intended to continue in the sports if he could find a drive that motivated him. A driver of Checo's caliber most definitely deserved another shot at the front end of the grid. Therefore, the only other available seats that would have motivated him was Red Bull. Given how Alex Albon had struggled up to that point in the season, the Mexican sensed an opportunity. And as we know from his years with Force India, whenever Sergio Perez even got a sniff of a podium, he never failed to seize his opportunity. This killer instinct is what also enabled him to recognize the potential vacancy at Red Bull and showcase his driving prowess. Statistically, from the Tuscan Grand Prix where the announcement was made to the final race in Abu Dhabi, Sergio Perez elevated to a completely new level. Prior to Mugello, Checo had scored just 34 points in the Drivers' Championship. He then exploded in the next 9 races by scoring 91 points, only behind the big 3. In fact, had Checo's engine not given up in Bahrain, he would have been second only to Lewis Hamilton in the number of points scored in the last 9 races. Before Mugello, Sergio had an average finishing position of 7.3. Compare this to his finishing position of 4.1 after he was dropped, and you start to see how much he upped his game. In that streak lasting 9 races, Sergio took 73% of the total points he finished the 2020 season with. If we compare this to the best 9 race streaks throughout his career in a single season, you can see that this ranks third only behind 2015 and 2019. But if we were to include his deserved podium in Bahrain, his percentage would have increased to 85, the best 9 race streak in his entire career. But for me,
I just gotta say, this is another example of Sergio Perez showing up on a Sunday. Because the first half of the season is what I would call a Saturday. Because I'm saying that's the race before the actual race. Where you have to keep up with the team, keep up with everybody else to be able to compete in the end. And he doesn't usually show up on a Saturday, but on Sundays, like, you know what I mean, he tends to want to do his thing. This is a nice little prime example. Bro, teed up. Went from 31 points to tripling it to like 91. Like, what? Yeah, let's go, man.
This isn't even the most impressive statistic. If we compare Checo to the top 13 drivers in the championship before and after Mugello, we can see that Hamilton, Albon, Leclerc, Ocon and Vettel all have a marginal percentage increase in points in those final 9 races compared to the opening 8. Max Verstappen's distribution is pretty equal across the season, despite suffering 5 retirements. Lawrence Stroll had by far the worst decline out of anyone, with a 68% decrease in points in the last 9 races. However, the best 3 drivers in the midfield all drastically stepped it up compared to their competitors. Unsurprisingly, these happen to be the most experienced drivers in the midfield. Carlos Sainz managed a 56% increase, and Daniel Ricciardo managed a 90% increase. So, what about Checo? Yeah. A 168%
Ah!
increase. Now, this stat is not being used to compare how the drivers performed throughout the season. It's merely to show who had the biggest increase in performance on race day. It's could
That's what
also
I'm
be
saying.
interpreted as
Mr. Sunday. Mr. Sunday himself, bro. Let's go back and see that stat again. Mr. Sunday himself in the flesh. Let's see that again.
Increase. So, what about Checo?
168%.
A 168% increase.
Damn.
Now, this stat is not being used to compare how the drivers performed throughout the season. It's merely to show who had the biggest increase in performance on race day. It could also be interpreted as Checo not performing to his full potential in the first half of the season.
That's what I'm saying.
But nevertheless, he came in clutch when it really mattered most. A seat was up for grabs, and he squeezed absolutely everything out of the RP20, weekend in and weekend out. We all know Sergio Perez is one of the best drivers on the grid on a Sunday.
Yep.
His stellar ability to manage the wear on his tyres has been evident throughout his career.
Yep.
We can look to the Turkish Grand Prix as a prime example of this, where he drove a monster stint on intermediates for 46 laps, and equaling the highest finishing position in his career of second place. This race also reminded us of the Mexican's superb adaptability in changeable conditions, as he was able to keep everything together when others around him were faltering. He also has a ton of mental strength developed during his early career when making his way through the ranks in the junior series with fewer resources than his competitors. His natural ability is also among the very best, as he has superb feel for the rear end of the car, which should bode well in the Red Bull next year. Which then leads us on to what he needs to do in order to succeed at Red Bull. And really, it depends on what success actually means in this case. Is it getting podiums? Is it snatching wins? Or is it simply being a worthy teammate to Max Verstappen? Throughout both Gasly's and Albon's stints in the Red Bull, they failed to remain within a close and consistent gap to the Dutchman to help him in his fight against the Mercedes. Not only will Checo's experience allow Verstappen to have a fighting chance, but it will also help the team in the Constructors' Championship. If they come out of preseason testing with a car capable of really taking it to the Mercedes, the deadly combo of Verstappen and Perez could very well cause an upset.
It would
Now,
seem
of
so.
course,
It would
stopped
seem
development on the
so.
W11 after the Belgian Grand Prix, so let's not get our hopes up too much. But there is still an opportunity for Red Bull to close the gap during the season, like they did in 2020.
Yeah.
At the final race in Abu Dhabi, where they had the car to win, Verstappen's class shone through, and he was able to deliver, taking pole, the victory, and almost the fastest lap before his former teammate snatched that away from him. This was also the race where Albon showed very strong pace and was able to keep tabs with the frontrunners better than he had done all season. This ensured that Mercedes couldn't try anything with strategy, as Albon could be used to cover. If Checo can provide this on a consistent basis, which is highly likely given his form,
Yeah.
Mercedes will have a real problem if they are not as dominant as they were in 2020.
It would seem
This is more
so.
referring to Valtteri Bottas, who may become a liability for the Arrows on a Sunday if Red Bull are much closer. Checo being in his prime, along with a wealth of experience, will push Max Verstappen to new heights in 2021, which will only benefit the Dutchman in the long run. The key area where Albon and Gasly lacked was on a Saturday, with Albon being outqualified 17-0 over the course of 2020. While Perez isn't as quick as Verstappen and probably won't outqualify him much, he will be consistently within a respectable gap to his teammates, which will provide greater strategy variability for the races. However, it will be...
I just gotta say, this video aged bloody well. Like, this video aged beautifully. Bro predicted the entire season. Perez is gonna stay close enough to Verstappen to put some pressure on Mercedes, and Bottas is not gonna be in the picture, and they're gonna do their thing at a high level and pull an upset. So let's go.
Races, where Sergio will come into his own. Racing Point's technical director Andrew Green summarized it the best. He's massively underrated. I think he's absolutely at the peak of his career now, and he's not fazed by anything. His mental capacity to drive the car and feedback on what the car is doing means, for me, he is one of the best.
Yeah.
And without getting too technical here, Green also describes Checo's remarkable slip control on throttle out of corners as, like he's got, built-in traction control. Going into next season, Sergio will have nothing to lose. A 1-year contract will give him the opportunity to prove himself in a car that matches his abilities. Similarly, it will give Red Bull the opportunity to assess whether they want to continue with him into the new regulations or whether to bring back Alex Albon and allow Checo to move elsewhere. Only time will tell how the season plays out, but Red Bull certainly made the right decision to partner a prime Sergio Perez alongside their superstar in Max Verstappen. But for now, we F1 fans will keep speculating as to how this partnership will play out in 2021. So leave your thoughts on how you think Checo will perform against Max next year in the comment section below. Remember to drop this video a like for Red Bull to challenge Mercedes next year, and subscribe to the channel with
the end of the video. Yeah, the video aged perfectly. This video aged beautifully. He predicted everything. Checo was not as fast as Max, like happened last season, and even this season as well. Checo was going to stay close enough to Max and Lewis to the front of the grid to be able to put some pressure on Mercedes to, you know what I'm saying, to mess up. And so had happened in Abu Dhabi and in previous races before that. And Bottas is going to potentially be a liability. It would seem so, because he was nowhere to be found. And yeah, he predicted the race. He predicted the entire season. Red Bull pulled an upset and did a thing. And Checo played a beautifully key role in that. How he... I don't know how, but he just tends to want to show up when it's time to show up. On Sundays, like during the Grand Prix, that's when he wants to show up. On Saturdays, not so much, but on a Sunday, you can expect Maestro Perez to come through and do his thing at a high level. And similarly, in the first half of that season, he wasn't really doing too much. What is it, 31 points he scored? Then over to the second half. Oh, am I gonna lose my job? Go ahead and tee up real quickly, boy. 91 points, almost tripled his. Went up like 168. That's nuts, man. The second best was Ricardo at 90. Bro, doubled the next dude. That's how it's done. That is simply how it's done. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about the video in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.